Okay, welcome back. We were mentioning that it'd be a really, really good idea for you to have the lecture notes that I posted in your hand while you're doing the quiz. Okay, assignment. So reading comprehension seems to be a big issue here, and I'm trying not to be condescending, but I'll ask, okay, do the following four things, and somebody will turn in the paper and say, okay, here are the three things that you asked for, and I'm going, no, I asked for four things. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm thinking, really? Typically submitting a Word document or a zip file, something like that. I use a standard file naming convention. I take your files and I drop them on my machine. It sure would be handy if they all lined up exactly the way I want. And so this is a test on see if you can read and follow instructions. Um, so the way you turn it in is the course, like CIS3343 space, whatever you use, you're turning in assignment 1, 2, 3, space, your last name, dot, and then first name. Now, this is not the last time you're going to see this. Every single assignment is going to show this at the bottom, how I want this thing formatted. So this is definitely going to be a test. I'll be able to tell on the very first assignment whether or not you can read and follow instructions. Yeah, I'll be able to tell. So multiple submissions are typically allowed, not quizzes, but assignments. You do an assignment, you can scribble on it. I'll scribble on it and give it back to you, and you can say, oops, I missed something, and then do it again. Cool? And we're not doing any group assignments, and there's tons of material in lecture notes and supplemental material that can help you with an assignment. Okay. We do need to talk about this. I wish we didn't. Plagiarism. Hopefully, most of you have made it this far in your college that you already know how to do this. But occasionally, I'll run across somebody who apparently has not figured this out yet. So the rules, we have a plagiarism checker, and you have to have less than or equal to 35% similarity score. And the rules for plagiarism are not at all complicated. Not at all. It's very simple. Unless you're doing a quote where you're absolutely taking someone's words exactly. Outside of that context, what you're supposed to do is not use other people's words. It's that simple. You don't grab something and paste it in your document. You read what they have and go, oh, I see what they mean. They mean, and then you put it in your words. That's how it's supposed to work. Okay, hopefully you know all this stuff. All right. And then there's stuff in supplemental materials called the 10 types of plagiarism. I thought it was kind of interesting. So here's a kind of a generic grading rubric. Later, there'll be specific grading rubrics for like each assignment. But right now, it's kind of a generic one. So 20% is, can you read and follow instructions? Yeah, I know, it sounds kind of crazy. 35% is, did you learn what it is you're supposed to learn? Because, these assignments are not designed, just to torture you. They're designed to show me that you're actually learning this stuff. Less important than have you learned it is, did it work? Yes, I want it to work, but that's not quite as important as learning the stuff. Good. Okay. Best practices in spelling, grammar, and formatting. This is not an English class. Okay, so there's a thing called a journal. So every week I'm going to ask you to write up a short one-page thing. Typically, it's going to have 3 sections to it. Pasting some screenshots into a Word document that basically says, if I said, I want you to install Visual Studio, I want you to show me that you have Visual Studio installed. If I say, show me an application that does this, then I expect you to do a screenshot. And don't make these things postage stamp size. Make it, fill the at least the width of the paper, because I don't want to have to use a magnifying glass to see what's going on. Lecture trivia. Now, this is kind of a bizarre kind of a thing. I'll confess, it is kind of weird. The idea behind this is I want to see if you're actually watching the videos, okay? And so I'll put something in there that maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the class at all. It could be, what color shirt am I wearing? Okay? Has nothing to do with the topic. It just makes sure that you're paying attention. So there's going to be 4 of those guys. And what would make an awful lot of sense is before you start watching, okay, grab the lecture notes, particularly the section on the trivia questions, and have those handy in your hand while you're watching the videos, okay? Because if you don't, you watch all the videos and then then you look at the trivia assignment, the journal assignment with the trivia questions, and you go, heck, I don't remember. Let me go back and watch them over again. Oh, are you kidding me? I don't want you to watch the videos a second time. I want you to pay attention the first time. So it would make a heck of a lot of sense to have the journal stuff handy, however you like it, printed or whatever. Have that handy while you're watching. And you go, ooh, there's question number 1. Right? And just read them off the list. They're even in the correct order. Okay? Order of appearance. And then the third section is going to be, just kind of a survey opinion. I'm going to ask you periodically, like, how things going, or how much time you're spending, or, how do you like this, those kind of things. And journals are 85% of your participation score. So, yeah. Okay. One more time. Have the journal lecture trivia questions handy, but while you're watching the videos. Okay, late policy. Everything is due at 11:59 on the date shown, typically a Sunday. The only day it's not, is the last day of the semester. The semester ends on a Friday. So, I usually start grading the following morning, typically done by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, something like that. There's a late penalty of 5 points per day. So if you turned it in and you made a perfect score, you have made 100, but you're 4 days late. Well, 4 times 5 is 20. So the most you can make is an 80 on that assignment. And I mentioned resubmissions. We'll talk about that again. So let's say you submitted it early. You submit it on a Wednesday. I don't even look at it on Wednesday. I wait till the following Monday. And I read it and go, oops, you missed part number 4. And then you go, and so you turn right around and you submitted part number 4. So I'm counting that day on Monday, since it was due on Sunday. The second time you responded, that incurs a late penalty as well. Okay, kind of making sense? All right, so here's my grading history. And the reason for showing this is so you have an understanding that, I'm not an easy A kind of professor where everyone makes an A. I'm not tough as nails where everyone, struggles. I must confess the F's over here on the right-hand side, that really isn't because, oh my God, the course content is way too complicated, or you're going too fast, or this is a tough course. It's typically, this is for people who just abandon the course. And I have no choice but to give them an F. But other than that, that's a halfway decent bell curve, I'm thinking. Most people make a B in my courses. Okay. So feedback. I mentioned I'm really keen on this concept of feedback, where you do turn in an assignment, I scribble on it, give it back to you, and you could do it again and again and again. I had this one student who did this like 4 or 5 times for every single student. I mean, there was a point of diminishing returns where the point scores weren't going to get any higher, but they kept going anyway because they wanted to learn. I'm thinking, okay, I kind of admire that. So yes, I'm really keen on feedback. That only works if you read the feedback. Okay, so things to be looking out for. Please read the grading feedback. There's 2 different types. Personal feedback that only you can see, and I have been known to throw in what's called an Easter egg inside your document just to make sure that you're actually reading the feedback. I'll put something in there that says, if you respond by midnight tonight, I'll give you an extra 5 points on the next quiz. Think maybe I'm serious about this feedback thing? Yeah. And then there's an overall discussion forum feedback. And that's for everyone. I mean, that's going to come back and say, okay, we just finished quiz number 2, and the average score was an 85, and there were 6 A's and 4 B's, and question number 4 apparently was a little confusing. Let's talk about that. That kind of stuff. So watch your email immediately after the due date. So in this case, by 3:00 in the afternoon on Monday. So you ought to be making sure, because if you miss something, and I have to send you an email to tell you about it, well then, yeah, it would be really good if you were reading your email that day. I mean, here's a scenario that sounds implausible, but you'd be surprised. I sit down on Monday and start grading, and I'll bring up assignment 2, and it's assignment 2 for some other course. So I have no choice but to mark it as 0 and then send a Canvas email saying, hey, I don't know what the heck this is, but it ain't assignment 2 for this course. And then later you go, I submitted the wrong thing. Most likely you did the work. You just submitted the wrong document. Well, man, if you're gone on a fishing trip or something and it's late for 5 days, wow, that's going to hurt. Okay, so watch your email immediately after grading period. And don't plagiarize or cheat, because I'll be able to tell and it'll annoy me. So how do you read feedback? When you submit a Word document, my comment's going to be inside the document viewer in Canvas, which is pretty cool. And there's a difference between grade feedback and annotation feedback. Now, grade feedback is like, great job. That's it. Annotation feedback is the one where I actually mark up your document. And we'll give an example. Now, if you submit a zip file, the Canvas document viewer can't handle a zip file. So what I'll do is I'll download your program, I'll scribble on it by adding comments, zip it back up a second time, and then give you your own assignment back in an attachment to the grading feedback. Okay, grading feedback typically, if it's a zip file, that's where you're going to go get my comments. If it's a Word file, you're going to get it in annotation feedback. Is that making it clear? Okay, let's go do this. So over here is the grading feedback. If it's a Word document, this is probably not where you're going to go. But if it's a zip file, this is where you're going to go, because this is going to have an attachment. It's going to say something along the lines of, see the attachment for your comments. And then you have to open the zip file, poke around and find the documents and look at the comments that I've added to your program. Okay, making sense? If it's a Word document, on the other hand, the Canvas viewer is going to have it, and you click over here. So here's what it would look like if this was a Word document. The Word document is, off on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is my annotation stuff. This is where you might get the thing that says, if you respond with this code by midnight tonight, you'll get an extra 5 points on the next quiz. That's where this will be, little Easter eggs. Hopefully these comments that I put in your document or in your program are going to help you. Like, oops, why did you choose this loop type? Wouldn't this be better? That kind of stuff. Hopefully the comments are going to be meaningful and helpful, so that you could go, okay, no problem, I'll fix that. Hopefully it'd be constructive criticism. Okay, a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Emmett Gray. I'm going to be your professor. I'm retired from Fort Hood. I didn't work for wasn't in the Army. I just worked for them. I'm a software author, programmer, and just to give you a hint, C# is my favorite language, and I've written, and I'm not exaggerating here, hundreds, plural, hundreds of applications in my lifetime. I have a strange educational. I have degrees in mathematics, engineering, and computers, but I do not have my PhD, so you can't call me Dr. Gray. I got a gazillion Microsoft and CompTIA certifications, so if you wanted to ask me about, hey man, I'm getting ready to take this certification course, most likely I've already had it. And I've been teaching at the university here for about 15 years. So I'm what's called an adjunct professor, which means I work part-time. I have an office in Founders Hall, room 323Q. Don't have a phone there, but the College of Business Administration number is shown. I prefer Canvas email if you have a choice. But if something else is going on, you can send me an honest-to-God real university email. I'm not certain if I'm going to have honest-to-God real office hours this semester or not. Don't know yet. But I am available for virtual office hours practically anytime, with Zoom or whatever software that you need. And I'm also willing to schedule a face-to-face meeting if you absolutely need to. So enough about me. So I'm going to ask you a little about you. In that first journal, I'm going to say, hey, where are you on a scale of 1 to 10 based upon this? A 1 would be, oh my goodness, I'm so out of place here. I can't imagine why I signed up for this class. I don't believe it. A 10 would be, I've been programming in C# for 15 years now. I could probably teach this class with my eyes closed. Wow. Okay, that'd be kind of cool, but not likely. Most people say, okay, I got the prerequisites. I've done programming logic and design. I've done at least one programming language. I'm ready for another. That kind of stuff. Okay. That is the end of the slides. I mentioned I don't use slides very often. So this is coming up on the 15-minute mark again. And I'll see you again in part 3.